Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. I just did a video on a new bill that's being introduced by the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee by the chairman, Mike Bost. It's a bipartisan legislation, a good bill, and it is to improve the veterans' medical disability exams, streamline the process, eliminate some redundant aspects of it, and so forth. And that got me to thinking about your C&P exams in general. How bad can you screw up your C&P exam? If all your evidence is in there and it's looking pretty good and you're in there at your C&P exam, can you screw it up bad enough to not be service connected? I mean, if you weren't going to be service connected based on the evidence that you supplied, would they even do a C&P exam for you, right? So let's think about that for a second. You put together all your information, you file your claim with all your evidence, the VA, goes through your file, and then they look at it, and then they schedule you a C&P exam. C&P is compensation and pension exam, right, for whatever issues that you're claiming. Now, if they're scheduling you the C&P exam, they're probably leaning toward, you know what, this is going to be service connected. We just need to, dot a couple I's and cross a couple T's and see the severity of your issues to know what we should rate you at. I think ideally that's kind of how that process ideally works. There's obviously different things that can happen, but I think ideally that's the norm of how it should work. Because the other way doesn't make sense, right? We look at your file, you don't have a nexus here, clearly, right? Are they going to schedule you the C&P exam? Maybe. I mean, maybe they're going to give you that one last ditch effort. But how bad can you screw it up if everything's in your favor is really the question here. And I think my answer to that is I think that you can actually screw it up bad enough to not get service connect. Forget about just getting a 0% or a 10%, right? I think you could screw it up bad enough to where they don't even service connect you for it. Now, let's take this into consideration. You are like the prime witness. You're the number one witness to your situation because it's you. You're going to have some outlier things. You're going to have maybe a buddy statement or something if you had to. You're going to get maybe a nexus letter from a doctor, right? But these are people that are talking to you, and you're helping them to get you what you need for your claim. So you are still the main knowledge base of your claimed conditions. So if you're in the C&P exam, and let's just use for an example, you've been out for, 19 years. No. Yeah, screw it. We'll say 19. You've been out for 19 years. You were in for, we'll say 4 years, just to make it easy. So you were in for 4 years. You've been out for 19, right? So now we're doing monkey math. Here we go. So that's 23 years ago you joined, okay? 23 years ago you joined. Now, you're a veteran. It's been over 20 years. You're a rounder, right? You round things. How many people were at the play? 50. Meanwhile there was 37. But you're just, about 50, right? How much was that loaf of bread? It was $6. It was $5.30 or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing out things. You round things is all I'm saying. So you round when you joined. When did you join? 25 years ago. So now, you round your age, right? How old are you? I'm, 60. Whatever. So you get the point. I'm killing that. So you round things. So now you're in the C&P exam, and the doctor asks you, so how long or when did you first start experiencing this condition? We'll use a couple easy ones. Gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, bad heartburn, or migraine headaches. Those are like my two favorites to talk about. So Either one of those, right? Or both. So when did you first start experiencing these two things? And your answer, because you're a rounder, is, about 25 years ago. Or you just say 25 years ago. Meanwhile, the reality is that, I started experiencing it about a year after I joined, 22 years ago. 22 and 25, 3-year difference, big deal, right? Especially when you're talking over 20 years. The problem is now you as the primary witness, right? The number one knowledge base of your condition and being service connected is now out of your mouth saying my condition is not service connected. It actually started prior to service. Therefore, I am not service connectable for that condition. Now, once those words leave your mouth, right, and that's not what you're physically saying, what you really said was 25 years ago. But that's what it translates to, because when the rater and all of them at the VA get your file, what are they going to do? They're going to look at it. They're going to look at the C&P exam. They're going to read the notes of the C&P exam, and they're going to look to see that the C&P examiner said, well, I asked him when he first started or she first started experiencing X, Y, or Z, and they said it was prior to service. Or they said 25 years ago. Then they're going to go, okay, well, let me look at the DD-214. Oh, look at that. He joined 23 years ago. 25 years ago is before that. So not service connected. Now you're going to get the denial letter. Now what? Now you're going to be pissed off. And you don't even know that you said 25 years ago. It's not even in your mind. In your mind, you're going, I said it happened when I was in, right? And I don't know why they would not service connect me for this. And you're going to be mad. And then one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to be so mad that you just don't even look at anything from the VA again, and you don't file any sort of appeal or anything, and then your appeal window goes away and all that stuff, and maybe down the road you do something. Or you're mad and you decide to file an appeal. And it's going to be a hell of an uphill climb, because now you have to undo what you said. Now, in some cases, it'll be easier than others to undo that. But let's say that your evidence wasn't that strong. You don't have anything that documents it in service. And all you had was a couple letters, and, it's the 50-50 thing, right? So for most people understand that the VA's threshold is 50-50. In other words, if your evidence is in equipoise for you and against you, meaning that it's equal on both sides, that the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. So if you were about the 50-50 mark and they were going to rule in your favor, and then you said that, well, now the evidence is off, right? It's lopsided in their favor because it's not in your favor. So they're going to deny you. And now you got to try to undo it. And that's hard to do sometimes. And sometimes you'll need to try to appeal it internally within the VA, and then you'll have to push it off to the board and explain that you're a rounder and that you just threw out 25 years ago. You weren't thinking, I'm confused, whatever. So it's a hard hill to climb. So it's better to just get it right the first time. So the moral of this video or story, if you hung on till the end, is make sure that you have your dates correct. And if you don't have an exact date to give them, then you need to give them a time frame. And you could always use non-actual years. When did you first start experiencing X? Well, it happened about the middle of my time in service. Then see if they take that. When did you first start experiencing this? Well, it was about a year after I joined, I started to experience these issues, right? And then if they ask you for an actual year, then, you might have to take a knee for a second and go, let me calculate it. I got to figure that out, right? But make sure that you are in your timeline of when you were in service when that thing originated, because if you give them some date before or too far after, you're screwed. So don't just throw out dates. Be specific when you can, if you know it, and if you don't have the exact date of when they're saying something, give a frame around it that puts it in the middle of your service connectable time frame, of course, if that's when it happened. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.